Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Mayumi Dewi Anjani, and this time I will explain the material about fables. Previously, this video was to fulfill the final text of the literal reading course. Okay, let's get moved. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, the word fable comes from the Latin fabula, which originally has the same meaning as myth in Greek. A fable is a form of narrative, usually featuring animals acting and speaking as humans, conveying a moral lesson and often explicitly formulated at the end. Fables are fictional stories, not stories about real life. Fable stories are often also called moral stories because the message in fables are closely related to morals. Do you believe that learning is not only in humans? We can learn from what is on earth. For example, learn from nature, plants, or animals. The whole life of plant species in the habitat is called flora, while the whole life of animal species is called fauna. The animals in fables have characters like humans. Some of their characters are good and some are not. They are honest, polite, smart, and happy to be friendly, and do common devil deeds. There are those who are cunning, deceitful, arrogant, like to cheat, and want to win themselves. Fables are not only intended for children, but also for adults. Fables have several characteristics, such as animal main character. The storyline is simple. The story is short and moves fast. The characters are not described in detail. Oral storytelling style. Message or themes are sometimes written in stories. The introduction is very short and direct. Fable story text structures are 1. The title is the head of the essay that serves to direct the reader's mind about the general picture of the content of the fable. 2. Orientation is a sentence found at the beginning of the story whose function is to introduce time, place, and characters. 3. Complication is the part where problem arises or conflict story. 4. Climax is the conflict reaches its climax. 5. Resolution is the problem solving or conflict resolution part of the story. And 6. Coda is a moral message from the author. Not all authors include a coda in the story or problem solving. Intrinsic elements are several elements that compose a literary work from within so that it builds the core of the story. In the fable itself, there are several intrinsic elements, namely theme, the main idea or story idea in a story, characters, actors in the story who are presented in the form of animals as human personifications, plot, a sequential storyline, and usually each event is connected because of a cause and effect event. The setting is the time and place of the incident and the description of the atmosphere in the story. The background itself is usually divided into 3, namely the time setting, place setting, and atmosphere setting. Point of view, the technique used by the author in telling the story. The story contains a message or moral, which can also be written in the story. Mandate, moral message conveyed by the author to the reader. This message can be revealed through writing directly in the story or implied. Judging from the time of its appearance, fables can be categorized into classic fables and modern fables. Namely, classical fable. Classical fables are stories that have existed since ancient times, but do not know the exact time of appearance, which are passed down from generation to generation through oral means. The characteristics of classic fables are as follows: very short story, simple theme, thick with advice or morals. Animal nature is still attached. Modern fables. Modern fables are stories that emerged, stories that appeared relatively recently and were deliberately written by the author as a literary expression. The characteristics of modern fables are as follows: stories can be short or long, more complicated themes. Sometimes it's an epic or a saga. The character of each character is unique. Now, I will give one example from a fable story. The story of the ant and the grasshopper. One summer day, in a field in a lush forest, a grasshopper was jumping up and down merrily, chirping and singing to its heart's content. At that moment, an ant passed by with difficulty carrying the corn it had brought to its nest. "Hey, ant, what are you doing? Come and play with me. See, it's very sunny today," asked Grasshopper. "Let's enjoy our life." "I save food for the rainy season," said the ant, "and I advise you to do the same." "Why bother preparing food for the rainy season? The rainy season is still long," said Grasshopper. "Look at the abundance of food now, it never ends." But the ant did not heed the grasshopper's invitation. He continued his journey and continued his hard work. Meanwhile, the grasshopper was back singing and playing the violin. When the rainy season arrives, the grasshopper feels weak from hunger, while the ants look happy and having fun. They distributed daily corn and grain from the food barn they had gathered in the summer. In literal reading, we are usually asked to retell a fable that has been read in our own words. Here is an example based on the fable of the ant and the grasshopper. On a very sunny day, there was a grasshopper who was busy singing and dancing with his violin. The grasshopper looked very happy. Not longer after that, an ant appeared who was busy carrying a piece of corn to take to the nest with his flock. The grasshopper who saw it and asked the ant what he was doing. The ant replied that he and his flock were gathering food for the rainy season. The ant replied that he and his flock were gathering food for the rainy season. The ant also advises the grasshopper to collect its food as well, but the grasshopper, who did not want to bother and did not listen to the ants, instead he invited the ants to sing along with him. The ant refused the invitation and went back to his work, leaving the grasshopper back to sing happily. When rainy season came, the grasshopper was weak and helpless with the body shivering from the cold. His stomach rumbled, and he regretted not listening to the ants' words. While the ants feasted in their nests with abundant food, they passed the rainy season without fear of running out of food. They also gave some of their food to the grasshoppers and taught the grasshopper to not to do that again. The conclusion of the story of the ant and the grasshopper is ants work hard. So when summer comes, the ants are safe and peaceful, while grasshoppers are lazy to work. When summer is hard to starve, so we as humans must struggle first and have fun later. So the moral message that can be learned from the story of the ant and the grasshopper is that we must work hard to get success in the future. Saving for something we want in the future is a good thing. That is the material about fables, starting with the meaning, characteristics, structure, types, and examples of the story. Sorry if the explanation is still lacking or something is not clear. Hopefully, it will be useful for all of us. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.